Deep in the heart of the Derbyshire countryside, nestling in the valley of the River Wye, lies Haddon Hall. Haddon is a good example of an English manor house and presents visitors with a fine example of medieval and Tudor architecture. Haddon Hall came into Lord Edward Manners' family some 400 years ago. It was unoccupied for almost 2 centuries, and the Duke made it his lifetime work to carefully restore this magnificent house to its former glory. As you will see, he certainly succeeded. The gardens were created by the 9th Duke of Rutland's wife in the early 20th century and are magnificent. The house is now occupied by the 9th Duke of Rutland's grandson, Lord Edward John Francis Manners, who lives here with his family. Parts of the house can be traced back to the 16th century, but little remains of this era. However, the walls have been preserved for all to view. The tapestries on display in the hall are all that remains of a much larger collection, the rest having been destroyed by fire in 1925. They had hung in the hall for 200 years whilst it was unoccupied, and the Duke had them removed to a room in the stable block away from the house while renovations were being carried out. The stable caught fire one evening and approximately 60 pieces were destroyed beyond repair. One can only imagine the despair felt by the Duke of such a devastating loss. Some of these tapestries were made in the early 14th century. It was a painstaking task to sort through and salvage the works of art and then repair pieces that could be saved. This was a task that the Duke himself carried out, sewing each piece himself. The chapel is dedicated to St Nicholas and is the parish church of Nether Haddon. Originating in the 14th century, it has been added on to over the years. One of the roof beams has an inscription GM 1624, which suggests the roof was replaced in that year by Sir George Manners. The marble effigy is of Lord Haddon, the son of the 8th Duke. As the eldest son, he would have inherited the hall, but died at the age of 9 in 1894. His grief-stricken mother sculpted the effigy of her son. This is the area of the house where the Earl of Rutland lived until 1703, when they moved on to Belvoir Castle nearby, leaving the house for 2 centuries before the family returned. The oak steps to the long gallery are cut from the roots of a single oak tree and lead to, arguably, Hatton's most spectacular room. As you enter the long gallery, you have a feeling of light and space. The many windows are south-facing to make the most of the sunlight. The gallery is 110 feet long and 17 feet wide and is used extensively by the current Duke's family. Exiting the house once more into the gardens, the view from the parapet is magnificent, as are the grounds. This is truly a beautiful example of a fortified manor house and gardens, which gives much delight to thousands of visitors every year.